You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump's monumental heap of trash is enough to get organizers prison time, based on an article by David Fagan. Trump's state fair was never about celebrating America. The actual power behind the spectacle. The Great American State Fair was sold as a national birthday party. In practice, it reads like another Trump operation: hype first, delivery optional, and failure reframed as an accident of logistics. The central fact is not that the event was messy. It is that power arranged the mess and then asked everyone else to treat the wreckage as an unfortunate surprise. Trump did not merely lend his name to the project. The event was tied to a Trump-created nonprofit, Freedom 250, and linked to contractors and companies connected to him.
That matters.
This was not some neutral civic pageant that wandered off course. It was a politically branded operation with institutional protection, public-facing legitimacy, and private incentives running through it. The warning signs were not hidden. The source makes clear that people closer to the work saw the collapse coming. States questioned whether the deadlines were even possible. One email reportedly asked for formal approval quickly if the event was supposed to be done well. New Hampshire officials questioned why a Trump-tied contractor was quoting absurd prices for basic furnishings. That is not confusion. That is a record of warning, delay, and evasiveness. The people doing the practical work recognized the gap between the marketing and the reality. The organizers chose the marketing. Misdirection as a business model. This is the familiar Trump structure: promise grandeur, ignore constraints, and let the failure land somewhere below the level of accountability. Empty booths, cancelled attractions, a broken Ferris wheel, melting ice cream, and dating crowds are not just embarrassing details. They are the visible residue of a political culture that treats logistics as optional and embarrassment as a manageable public relations problem. The source is right to compare this to Fyre Festival, but the political version is worse. Fyre was a scam aimed at consumers. This was a patriotic spectacle wrapped around public institutions, congressional branding, and a semi-quincentennial celebration. The grift is not only commercial. It is institutional. Who Dart misled, and who was doing the misleading. Performers reportedly withdrew after realizing the event was not the bipartisan national celebration they thought they had signed up for, but a Trump rally in ceremonial drag. That is the key asymmetry. The artists, states, and contractors were reacting to the regal nature of the project after the branding had already done its work. The more revealing question is not why some participants left. It is why the architecture of the event allowed the deception to persist long enough to recruit them in the first place. The problem is not overpromising in the abstract. The problem is a political machine that uses patriotic language to conceal partisan capture. The corruption is structural. The scrutiny around America 250 and Freedom 250 points to the deeper issue. When a congressionally chartered commission sits beside a separate Trump-created nonprofit, accountability starts to blur on purpose. That blur is not our vibe. It is the operating system. It creates room for favored contractors, vague responsibility, and an endless trail of no one quite owning the outcome. And then there is the ending. After the failure, Trump went to the World Cup. Billy McFarland went to prison after Fyre Festival. That contrast is the whole story in miniature. One figure punished, one figure promoted. In American politics, the lead consequence is not distributed according to damage. It is distributed according to power. What this story really shows This was not her celebration that stumbled. It was a political spectacle built on denial, protected by institutions that should have known better, and delivered with the usual Trump contempt for anything that cannot be spun after the fact. The fair exposed a durable pattern. Use patriotism as cover. Shift the costs downward and count on the public to absorb the humiliation while the people at the top keep moving. That is not incompetence with better branding. It is a method. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Roar Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Riza, thanks for listening.